I've gotten away with a lot on this channel that I never would have expected to. The jar, the scissors, the bacon, the box. But there's one story that I've been asked to cover several times throughout the years, and whenever I go back and read it, I think to myself, I'm not so sure YouTube's gonna let me get away with it this time. Maybe I don't want to push my luck. Of course, since you've read the title of this video, you know that what I'm talking about is Blowfly Girl. And I don't really know what would happen. Maybe they'd let me get away with it, maybe they'd give me a strike, maybe they'd monetize it like they monetized the Cumbox video, who knows? It's like a game of chicken that I play every time I upload one of these kinds of videos, so here's what I'm gonna do this time. I've uploaded my take on the Blowfly Girl story itself onto Storyfire, a new platform by McJuggernuggets that is going to let me get away with these kinds of things without having to worry about it. I'll put the link to that video in a pinned comment down below. But that being said, there's a lot more to Blowfly Girl than just the infamous story itself, and that's what I want to explore in this video. The history of Blowfly Girl, and inside the mind of the author herself. Blowfly Girl is probably the most infamous copypasta of all copypastas. And although, as I said, I'm not going to be reading the story itself on YouTube, I will give you a summary of it. Blowfly Girl tells the story of a woman with a fetish for filth and maggots. One day, she repeats her ritual of secretly pleasuring herself inside of a dumpster. Inside this dumpster, she had left behind a plastic garbage bag full of rotting meat, which had now become infested with maggots. She takes this concoction of food and bugs and shoves it inside herself, which she derives great enjoyment from. She drives back home while carrying her precious cargo, which she enjoys for a few days, and as she put it herself, other girls have babies, but I give birth to decay and filth. The story ends when she develops a severe infection and wakes up in a hospital. Sounds like fiction, right? This wild, prosaic story that sounds like something ripped from the pages of a Guro manga. Yet, during my research, I found out that such things do occur, and in fact, there exists a video depicting this very thing, which I'm not going to show you for very obvious reasons. So what's the deal with this story? Where did it come from? A lot of people think that this story simply appeared one day on 4chan. In fact, some sources point to a specific thread on B in May of 2007. And although this thread on B definitely contributed to the popularization of the story, it had been floating around the internet for some time. The first thing we need to look at is its name, Blowfly Girl. The thing is, although this story is often called Blowfly Girl, that's not actually the name of the story. Rather, Blowfly Girl is the name of the author, and the story itself is something she merely refers to as her maggot story. And this maggot story created by Blowfly Girl can be traced back much further, all the way to Geocities. Unfortunately, Blowfly Girl's Geocities page was terminated in 2005, presumably due to its content. And if you try to look at her original account on the Internet Archive, it's behind an adult content warning, meaning that you had to log in to get to it, which means that the Internet Archive wasn't able to save it. So the very first incarnation of Blowfly Girl does not appear to have been preserved in any way, but if you have it, I'd love to see it. After the termination of her account, Blowfly Girl would return in the new year on January 1st, 2006, this time with a new Yahoo account. Yahoo ID, Blowfly Girl 2. Real name, Deborah. Nickname, Blowfly Girl. Location, Northeastern Illinois. Age, 27. Marital status, single. Sex, female. Hobbies, slowly destroying myself, using my own sick perversions as a weapon. Descending into the depraved little hell I've created for myself. It all makes me come. Latest news. I can hardly wait for it to get warmer here so the flies will come back and deposit their repulsive little spawn for me, so I could feel them moving and growing inside me again. I want the maggots to make love to me and ruin me. Favorite quote, I'd like it if you'd look at my profile before you IM me. She also made single blog posts. Entry for January 1st, 2006. It's a new year and I guess that means it's time to start new things, like this blog. Yahoo deleted my old Geocities page a few months ago. Lost all of my contacts. Hopefully, this will last longer. This first blog post had 5 comments indicating that the story had already been spreading around the internet at some point, and in particular, a man named Richard had been telling people about it. This new blog, however, would quickly fall to the wayside as Blowfly Girl would make a different blog, this time on a site called Multiply. Blowfly Girl would post on Multiply throughout the next few years, but unfortunately, in 2009, this blog too was deleted. And unfortunately, like her original Geocities page, this too was not archived. After her Multiply account was deleted, Blowfly Girl wouldn't be heard from for another few months until she created the Blogspot account, which is active until this very day. Saturday, August 22nd, 2009. Here I am. It's been a really long time since I posted anything. I lost my job several months ago, and about the same time, Multiply killed my profile there. That's where I moved all my pics and blog entries to, so it's all gone. The only other place my pics were saved was on a PC at work. So anyway, I was really unhappy and just didn't feel like communicating publicly anymore. Maybe I'm ready to start again now. There was a story I wrote about my first sexual adventure with maggots. I thought I'd lost that too until I discovered that it's been reposted all over the web. It seems to be famous. I'll put that up here if this turns out to be a good place. I wrote about my second time too, but it looks like nobody reposted that. It must be really gone. It had to do with a dead deer I found close to I-94 in Wisconsin about this time last summer. If anyone has seen it around, please let me know. I've realized that if too much time passes, I don't write very well. I couldn't possibly rewrite it. I'm going to be 29 next month. I haven't had a boyfriend or even been with a man since I was 18. My parents don't want to deal with me because I still refuse to go back to counseling. I'm working at Target now, and I barely have enough money to keep my apartment and keep my car running. I do make a little extra money doing alterations on dresses, but it's not much. I don't have any future plans for myself. I don't have any marketable skills, I'm totally out of shape, and I've gained some weight. I'm up to a size 14 now. And as hard as I've tried to change, I still feel like I'm a sick, perverse, filthy pig inside. I've tried to ignore the desires and disgusting ideas that come into my head. Dangerous things for me to do, forcing myself to get off. I always hope I'll change. I've been forcing myself to try, but the ideas never stop coming. So where does that leave me now? I continue to struggle against my talent for failure. Pretending to be a normal woman while living in fear of backsliding and doing something really bad to myself. I picture myself, in metaphor, walking and falling into an open manhole, hanging onto the edge with my fingertips and struggling to pull myself out. I keep falling in, over and over, and for a long time I've been able to get out each time, but I just don't have the energy to struggle anymore. I want to let myself fall into the sewer now, and let myself sink into everything that is dark, dangerous, filthy, and perverse. Years of writing, photos, and memories wiped out in an instant. Every single thing she had ever done online would be gone were not for the fact that her one maggot story became insanely internet famous. And this first post gives an interesting insight into Blowfly Girl's mentality. On one hand, she is miserable about how her paraphilia has negatively affected her life, but at the same time, she's very proud of the writing she's produced because of it. And shortly after she made this first post, she would go on to repost the famous maggot story on her own blog, this time receiving comments of various flavors. Jesse, thank you for showing me something new about myself. I actually found myself aroused by your story. We all have perverse parts of ourselves, and one day, we will all find someone who accepts those parts we don't like to talk about. Anonymous. The people who will accept these things about you are the people who have sick, twisted minds like you and this Blowfly Girl. You need help. Seriously. Her last post of the year would discuss being depressed during the holidays. Depression. I have a really difficult time at the holidays. For some reason, my depression gets worse this time of year. It happens to a lot of people, I guess. My problem when I feel depressed is that I don't ever get out of bed unless I have to go to work. When I spend too much time sleeping, I start having really vivid dreams. Not all nice dreams either. Her post would go on to detail the dreams, mostly involving maggots and this kind of discrepancy between her excitement over the maggots but also her fear of people finding out about them. And that December was the last she was heard from until July 4th of 2010, when she would attempt to rewrite her deer story. Dead Deer, second maggot story. A few of my old contacts have emailed me asking if I would post the story of my second encounter with maggots. It's been about 2 years since it happened, and I had written about it the next day on my Multiply page. Unfortunately, Multiply deleted the page. I lost the story and everything. I hadn't kept a copy because I did everything from a computer at work. It's all gone. A lot of detail fades over time, but I tried my best to rewrite the experience. Once I got started, some of it came back to me, and I ended up really enjoying it. I'm glad I took the time. Hopefully, I haven't misremembered anything important. It happened on a Sunday afternoon while I was driving back home from Milwaukee. I can't remember now whether it was the weekend of Summerfest or Labor Day, but it was one of the two. As I mentioned, the following Monday night I wrote the whole thing out at work and uploaded it to my Multiply page. I even got brave and took some pictures before my hands got too dirty. I uploaded a couple of those to the page too, only the ones that I felt safe showing. Not a lot of me in them, not a lot of my flabby, disgusting, pale body in them, actually. I really wish I had even those few back. Multiply didn't respond to my email when I asked. And the revelation that pictures existed shines a bit of a different light on this story. You see, one of the biggest debates around Blowfly Girl is whether this was an actual thing that happened or whether or not it was just someone's attempt at writing fiction. If actual pictures were to exist of her experiences, it would definitely lead a lot of credence to the fact that this is in fact a true story. But of course, the Multiply blog, which those pictures allegedly resided on, is now gone and has never been archived. And even if the pictures did exist, it's not necessarily proof that the events described happened, just that at some point, she was in close proximity to a maggot-ridden deer corpse. After this, her next post would be detailing her feelings about turning 30. I'll be turning 30 this month. I guess that's supposed to be a milestone, but I'm pretty sure nobody's planning a surprise party for me or anything. I can't think of anybody in my life who'd want to do that. It's my own fault for being such a loner. I don't mind turning 30. When I was younger, I had expectations about what my life would be like at 30. I was way off the mark. I thought that I'd be working professionally as a costume designer for theater and movies, living in a trendy loft condo somewhere in Lincoln Park or something, surrounded by smart, sophisticated friends. Well, none of that has materialized yet. Considering my history of not being able to hold a job for very long, I guess I should feel lucky that I'm employed at all right now, especially with the bad economy and everything. I have my own apartment and I have a car to drive, though I am still heavily subsidized by my parents, as my dad says. They don't mind. I'm sure they're very relieved that I've been emotionally stable. I guess I should set a goal to actually do something useful for myself this year. Do something besides slowly destroying myself through my perversion for filth. I mean, so far, what have I done? I nearly killed myself 6 years ago having sex with blowfly maggots. Wrote about it on my old Geocities page, and the story became mildly infamous as one of the most disgusting stories on the internet. My gynecologist says that she can tell I'm unable to get pregnant anymore. At least I'm well on my way to destroying myself. It's an achievement. Seriously though, I have to mention that I've read comments on my blog and gotten emails from people wishing me well and hoping I will seek help. If you're one of them, thank you for being concerned. Really, sincerely. You sound like nice, compassionate people, but I'm okay. While I was growing up, my parents made me go to counseling, see psychiatrists, take antidepressants, all sorts of stuff. I'm happier without any help. And I'm only a danger to myself a very small percentage of the time. There's a lot more to my life that I don't discuss on my blog that if you knew about, you'd see I'm pretty normal. And at this point, a lot of her blog starts to focus on her work situation. In particular, she's very unhappy with her low-paying Target job, but at the same time, she's very dependent on the health insurance. Especially with her frequent health issues such as the pinworm infection she developed after an interaction with a fan. The fan wrote to her about how much they appreciated her work and sent her a story called Julie's Slide into Depravity. And the thing is, Blowfly Girl had already read this story. In fact, although she commented that there were things about it that she intensely disliked, like the violence for instance, she actually credited it with helping her discover her interest in maggots. This interaction caused her to read the story one more time, and this time she became interested in one of the characters' interactions with dog shit. She went out and recreated this interaction with dog shit, and it led to her developing an unseemly pinworm infection. And it just so happened that at the time, Blowfly Girl became sick once again and was dependent on her Target health insurance that she got an offer to go back to her old job. This job, which was at a law office, was much better paying than Target, but at the same time, they didn't give health insurance, so she found herself kind of stuck in a situation because of her health problems. Ultimately, though, a few months would pass and she returned to tell her fans that she did in fact accept the job offer. New job. I'm back working in the law office now. I quit Target. That's the first time I ever left a job without being fired. How depressing is that? The attorney that I'm working for, the one who asked me to come back, is actually a friend of my dad's, going back to when I was little. I'm suspicious that he was doing my dad a favor by asking me to come back. It would explain why he's also agreed to put me on the health insurance plan the rest of the office staff is on. Yeah. Anyway, this is the best job I've ever had and I'm grateful to have a second chance at it. I don't mean to disappoint, but I've been kind of a clean girl lately. Probably just haven't been depressed enough since I started the new job. I cleaned up the apartment a little bit, enough to realize I had an ant problem last summer but didn't notice. I separated out the empty pizza boxes from the stacks of magazines too. I even put makeup on for the first time in ages. No reason, just felt good to do it. Anyway, anybody who's reading this has probably already done it, but I googled Blowfly Girl recently. I had no idea how much attention the stuff I've written has gotten. Looks like the consensus is that I must be sick in the head. Well, duh. What's funny are blog comments and forums where people shock each other by posting links to my stories. She also, for the first time, confronts the ramifications of her having created this story. I'm not going to betray any confidences, but I think it's worth mentioning that I've been exchanging emails with someone who has had an experience with maggots similar to mine. She got the idea from reading about what I did. I'm pretty sure she's sincere. She knows way too much about what maggots do when you mess around with them, and how they feel in your body. Either that, or she studies insects for a living and she's just playing with me. I'm not sure how I feel about having inspired someone to do that to themselves. Her posts will become a bit more sparse throughout 2011, in part due to the fact that she got hacked and she deleted all the racist comment that the hacker posted. However, she would drop by to inform people that she did actually manage to hold down her law office job. And Blowfly Girl would return in May of 2012, which as of now is the last long-form Blowfly Girl story. Finally, some fun. It was just getting light out Monday morning when I started driving home from work. It was overcast and gray and wet and my mind was mostly on getting some sleep. But as I drove, I also began thinking about how bored I was. I really have been bored. On the spur of the moment, I decided to go have some fun. No idea what, but it's been way too long since I've had any. I had all day. I got on the Eisenhower and started heading west. Traffic was already slow and I wondered if I'd made a mistake, but soon I was on I-88, which was clear. Randomly, I exited at Route 59 by Aurora, kept driving, and started looking around for something interesting. All of a sudden, I was at Fox Valley Mall. I hadn't been there in many years. There's a road that rings the parking lots outside the mall. I drove slowly along the road, circling the mall a couple times, hoping something would catch my eye and wondering what kind of fun I could make for myself outside a mall that isn't open yet. There's a Greek restaurant on the west side of the mall. It has its own building and its own parking lot. The lot was empty. I drove around the back of the restaurant and saw a wooden enclosure where they keep their dumpster. But it was a pretty big enclosure for just the dumpster. I stopped and got out of the car to take a look. Could be interesting. And as she explored the Greek restaurant dumpster, she went on to reenact much of what happened in the original maggot story, filling herself up with octopus tentacles, chicken bones, shrimp tails, and driving all the way home without removing the contents. And she described how not depriving herself of that kind of excitement made her feel alive once again. I wasted a lot of time denying myself. It's been way more than a year since I did anything like this. I kept thinking that it was my depression that made me want to do things to myself, and that if I succumbed to the desire, I'd end up backsliding again, losing my job and everything I've worked so hard for. I was, and I am really scared of that ever happening. But maybe I don't have to be dead inside all the time. I went to work last night and everything's fine. Maybe I'm a depraved, filthy pig who can also hold a job. She would post very sporadically over the course of the next few years, speaking very frankly about dealing with her depression and thanking her readers for their support. She would also speak in detail about software upgrades at her job and considering going back to school to become a paralegal. She also made a post documenting her difficulty with being intimate with people, and in particular a date with a man named Eli. She regretted not inviting him inside after he dropped her off, but she was hopeful to see him again. And after a bit of a break, she would return in 2016 to reflect on the blog as a whole. It's April 24th, 2016. I posted something. I started my Blowfly Girl blog here mostly because of the feedback I got when I shared that first experience I had with maggots. I posted that first story first on my Geocities page, yes, that long ago. So many people had things to say to me, whether curious, concerned, disgusted, or extremely erotic, that I wanted to keep posting whenever I did anything interesting, and that's where this blog came from. I'm an extremely shy, introverted girl who found a way to share my dark side. Also, to be honest, just hearing from people who found my experiences erotic has been extremely erotic for me too. But it's been a long time. Perhaps I've changed as I've gotten older. Ironically, I fantasize now about doing things to myself that are far more extreme than anything I ever did for real, but I've lost the courage, with exceptions, to actually do them. And I wonder if people are interested in hearing anymore from an approaching middle-aged woman instead of the nicely plump, horny, and pervy young girl I was who wrote about that first experience. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be very self-conscious. Anyway, this blog isn't dead. Not yet anyway. I'll continue posting depending on what my readers email me about. I have learned that for sure that not many people are interested in my job, my dating fails, I guess things didn't work out with Eli, or my cat, though I'll happily complain about any of them upon request. Don't comment here, spam has taken over, email me. And as of now, the last post on our blog was made in January of 2017. It's a brief post in which she basically just documents her favorite comments that she's received throughout the years. I read my comments. Welcome to 2017. I have nothing new to talk about except that I read through my whole blog today. I'm actually kind of sad right now because it's been such a long time since I've done anything horrible worth writing about. I also read the comments on my blog. I never have before. Some of it is spam, obviously, and other comments are invitations to Jesus, but some of the rest are just priceless. I've been missing out. I guess this is one benefit of having a blog online for a few years. Amazed to read your blog. Funeral programs to memorial programs are gaining popularity because they provide grievers with another way of memorializing. My 10-year-old cousin read this story in front of his mother while she was eating. I don't want to live on this earth any longer. Beautiful and inspiring. I have played with roaches in cunt and ass many times. We seem to have common ground here. I'm glad you're doing well. Please don't do any more of these things, they sound dangerous, XX. The story of Blowfly Girl is really unique that it's really, at this point, a 15-plus-year-old story that made her legendary, yet she kept up the blog for so many years. And it's through this blog that we got to see into the mind of the person who wrote it, ostensibly the star of the story, and watch them evolve throughout the years. And with all that in mind, you still have to ask, was this a real story? Was it made up? Or maybe it was some kind of blend of the two where maybe you had a person who really had these thoughts, but only ever enacted them through their writing. I'll put a poll up to see what you guys think it is. But that's all for now. If you guys enjoyed this video, you'll probably also like any of the videos in my playlist about gross internet stories. Peace out.